Hello chess friends and welcome to Jozarov chess channel and welcome back to our best chess games of all time series. So in this series we're following the best of the best chess games that have been ever played in chess history, and today I've decided to show a really immortal game that was played in the 1980 European Chess Championship between the legend of the sport Garry Kasparov and Josef Pribyl. So this game was really immortal and I really want to think about this game a little bit harder because in this game Garry Kasparov was only 16 years old, and I'm sorry that I used older pictures here by Garry Kasparov and also by Josef Pribyl. The reason behind this is that I really couldn't find any younger pictures by Josef Pribyl, so that's why at least I used some pictures where they have at least the same age here, so that's why I used older pictures. I hope you don't mind, but as I said, here in this game Garry Kasparov was only 16 years old, which is really incredible how he played the game. And whenever you see now a beautiful tactical shot in this game, remember here Garry Kasparov is only 16 years old. I'm not sure how to explain this game. This was really stockfish back from the 80s. This was really immortal stuff what Garry Kasparov produced here. So let's check out now the game. Garry Kasparov versus Josef Pribyl in a beautiful Grünfeld defense. So here Garry played the beautiful move d4. We have knight to f6 by Josef Pribyl. We have c4, and after move g6, knight to c3, d5, we have now the Grünfeld defense. So after move c takes d5, we have now the exchange variation, knight to d5, e4, pretty standard stuff. After move knight to c3, b takes c3, and bishop to g7. We know the common strategies about the Grünfeld defense. Black is trying to break the position, then afterwards with move c5, knight to c6 will eventually continue the pressure around the square d4. If knight to f3 happens, even some occasions bishop to g4 is working, attacking the knight and still battling for the d4 square. So every move that black is using now is trying here to destroy the central control, the beautiful pawn central control that white is here in the continuation of the game. White's strategy on the other hand is to keep a little bit longer this central control, is trying to keep the position in the center compact, develop the pieces, then to slowly build up some kind of an attack. And also some strategy ideas are some breakthroughs with d5, e5 if the position allows it, also with the move f4. So here some pawn advanced moves I think are the main strategic goals of white here. So as I said, we know about the common strategy, so let's see now how both players continued in the game. So we have here the move knight to f3 by Garry Kasparov, and Josef Pribyl plays immediately an inaccuracy in an opening stage, b6. This is a move that you should not play because it weakens a little bit here your pawn structure in front of the king. You have several light square problems, and Garry Kasparov uses this moment immediately and plays bishop to b5, attacks the king immediately. And there are now several things that you can do. You can cover yourself, of course, with the move knight to d7. This wasn't played in the game, but let's see what happens if you cover in this way. Then the fun starts with this move e5, and now there are many things that you can do. For instance, if you try bishop to b7 to develop here simply the bishop, then you get e6, and e6 is in the Grünfeld in some Tarrasch structures. It can happen if you allow your opponent here to move e6, then you get messed up. You see f takes e6, knight to g5, and I'm not seeing good ways anymore how you should defend this position. Queen to g4 is going to happen, so I think you're getting destroyed here for sure. So let's go back after move knight to d7, and here the move e5. For instance, if you play e6 now in order to stop the progress, you see bishop to c6 going to happen, rook to b8, and now with bishop to g5, look at this f6, we just take, and we just play bishop to h6, and black is not going to castle in a while now in the continuation. Queen to e2 is going to happen, kingside castling, and white is building an immortal attack, and I think black can even resign the game immediately. So this is not working. So the see knight to d7 is not a good move here to cover. Maybe you can play bishop to d7 in this particular position, but it's not getting better. We just retreat. We took away sort of a good square for the knight. The knight would left to come on d7. Now we just continue with development, kingside castling, bishop to e3, knight to c6. We can even play h3, not allow this idea, and still I think white is much better, has this dominant position in the center with both of these pawns. And notice in this structure black didn't even play the normal Grünfeld move, didn't even play the c5 breakthrough idea, so now white should be here also much better. So that's why after move bishop to b5, Josef Pribyl played c6, and okay, this is a better position for white, but I would not say this is completely over. Of course, still black has some ideas. In the continuation, Garry Kasparov retreated, of course, and now after kingside castling, also castling was played by Garry, and now bishop to a6. This is a good choice by Josef Pribyl to simplify the game because this is a powerful bishop. This bishop cannot be tolerated on this diagonal, so that's why at least Josef tried here to trade off a bad piece, which was not good in the continuation of the game here, for a good piece here of white. So that's why bishop to a6 so far a good move in order to simplify the game. So bishop to a6, knight to a6, we have queen to a4 attacking the pawn on c6, but also the knight on a6. So that's why Josef Pribyl has to play now the move queen to c8. And okay, so far black has defended the position. So far black has at least simplified the game enough. Although we have to say this is an unnatural square for the queen. The queen is now on the passive side. The queen has to always defend the position. Now Josef Pribyl has to be more aggressive. He has to play queen to b7. He has to make his goal c5. If you don't play c5, then you're getting, I think, destroyed, especially because of this beautiful central pawn storm that white can build. So in the continuation, bishop to g5. From this point on, Garry is playing this simple threat moves. You know, when you are on the attacking side and when you don't know maybe immediately where you should attack, at least you're provoking your opponent, at least you're attacking something, then he has to defend. You're developing, maybe you're not attacking in a wild way, but at least you make your opponent react. That's, I think, the beauty about the simple threat moves that Garry Kasparov will play here. So he's making now Josef Pribyl react. He has to always defend something. At least he's not he doesn't have time in order to develop his minor pieces. So queen to b7, you see here Josef defended the pawn on e7 and also keeps here the protection of the c6, but also the knight on a6. Bishop to e7 is not good here actually, because you could maybe deflect the queen from the defense of the knight, but after queen takes a6, black can also take out the pawn on e4, and this should be, I think, a much better position now for black. Black will eventually pull off the c5 move, will use this beautiful bishop diagonal in order to make further progress, will also include, of course, the rook into the game. So here, in my opinion, black should be slightly better. So after move queen to b7, that's why Garry Kasparov didn't rush into the attack. He played rook to e1, simply included this rook into the game. We have now e6, rook from a to b1. Here Garry noticed that could be something maybe on the b file, and this move is a double function move. I think this is an attacking move against the queen. If something gets cleared maybe on the b file, then the rook is very active here, but it's also getting out of this tactical mess that could maybe happen in the near future. Maybe this long diagonal will be open, so that's why Garry Kasparov is also getting out of the range of the dark square bishop. From this point on, as I said, Garry Kasparov is only 16 years old here, so I really want you to memorize this, because this is now very important to say how Garry is playing the game now from this point on. So far, I think Josef Pribyl, as we said in the beginning, played maybe a tiny little inaccurate opening line, but I think he defended this position. From this point on, I think you have to be genius in order to play the game immortal like Garry Kasparov did. So look at this, what happened. c5 was played by Josef Pribyl, so he made his goal. You don't want to play, of course, d takes c5, then knight to c5 is going to happen. It comes with the tempo. c3 is weak, so that's why it's not a good continuation here for white. So Garry Kasparov pulled off his first sort of stockfish move that I like, because I'm calling this move a stockfish move because my stockfish engine at home had to calculate this position for a while in order to find this aggressive move. Maybe you can pause the video and try to see now the best continuation here for white. It's really wild what Garry Kasparov did here. Maybe take your time just for fun, just try to see really an aggressive method. So okay, here Garry Kasparov pulled off the beautiful d5 move. So this is really wild because this pawn is now twice attacked by the queen and the pawn, and also notice that the c3 pawn is weak. So here I asked myself at home, what the hell is going on? Why did he play the game like this? Because now everything is hanging. But the problem here for Josef Pribyl was that actually e takes d5 is not working, because look at this. Of course we play e takes d5 too. Queen to d5 is not working because you lose the knight. But now, for instance, if you play bishop to c3, then you get the rook to e7, and you see the queen is a little bit in danger. The queen has to step back. You still have this vulnerable knight on a6. You have to make a reaction. We just now start to push the pawn. The bishop is a little bit loose on the board. It is okay, it took the pawn, of course, on c3, but eventually it will have to go back in order to defend the king, because the king is a little bit naked if you don't have defenders in front of the king. So that's why in this particular scenario I think white would be on the attacking side and would create really some tactical madness in front of the king. So that's why here after move d5, so as we said, you cannot take out immediately this pawn, so that's why Josef Pribyl took bishop to c3. We have rook to d1. Now Josef took, we have e takes d5, e takes d5, Josef Pribyl retreated, because if you do something else, if you try maybe some ideas of f6 to kick away the bishop, then of course we simply retreat and still your bishop is a little bit loose on the board. So that's why the bishop has to go back. You have to lose another tempo with the bishop in order to regroup, sort of. If you don't do that, I think this is not a good defensive structure in front of the king. The king could be a little bit naked. So that's why I have to say the bishop has to retreat. So that's why after move e takes d5 here, Josef Pribyl retreated with the bishop, but this gives now extra time for Garry Kasparov to create this pawn move to advance the pawn further on d6. And now after move f6, it becomes even wilder. Now comes the second stockfish move by knight by stockfish 15 by Garry Kasparov. Maybe you can pause the video again and try to see again a beautiful continuation that Garry Kasparov pulled off here, because not many of us would play the game, of course, like this. This is really mortal how Garry played the game with 16 years. So really wild stuff. So okay, I think at least 90% of us would retreat here to f4 or something. It seems again like a good position. We are supporting the pawn. We will advance the pawn. We have some ideas of queen to c4, delivering a check. Maybe it's time to maybe search for new opportunities for the knight. But Garry Kasparov never retreated in the game again, because the only defensive move that he played in the game was after move, if you remember, the move c6, when Garry Kasparov got attacked and then he retreated. That was the only retreating move by Garry Kasparov. From that point on, he played only aggressive attacking moves. Here in the continuation, after move f6, Garry pulled off the move d7, advanced the pawn further, and look at this, what happens. If you take the bishop, we'll see now what will happen. So this was Josef Pribyl's continuation. But even if you try to stop this potential progress of the pawn with the normal blockade, with the move rook to d8, there is a beautiful tactical shot that you can play. Here you can play rook to d6, but I even like more this idea. Knight to e5 is a really wild move, because whatever you do now, you can take out, of course, the bishop, then you get queen to c4, you get a check, you have to step back, king to h8, knight to f7, look at this, rook to f7, queen to f7, and this is now, in my opinion, a much better continuation. There is always the threat of queen to e8, so this should be, in my opinion, winning. So let's go back. If you play now after move knight to e5, if you play here f takes g5, then again queen to b3 or queen to c4, whatever you like to play here, king to h8, knight to f7, rook to f7, again queen to f7, and we have reached now again a similar position. So again, this should be much better. So this is really wild what happened. So after move d7 that Garry Kasparov pulled off here, Josef Pribyl took the bishop. Now we have f takes g5, but now again this idea, queen to c4, we have king to h8, and now knight to g5, again with the same threat. We are trying to play the move knight to f7. So that's why Josef had to play again bishop to f6, creating some spaces for the king, because now knight to f7 doesn't make sense, because black has the opportunity to play king to g7, and this should be defendable, especially because also the bishop on f6 is controlling the dx square. Now 3 pieces are protecting the potential promotion, so this is not good. Black should be winning here. So that's why Garry had to find different routes here. He played knight to e6. This is the correct move. He's attacking now the rook, but he's also supporting the further progress of the d pawn. He's trying to advance the pawn further on d8. So we have here now knight to c7. That was the only defensive move here for Josef, because even if you try to step back from the defense, from the attack of the knight, still it's not working, because here queen to f4 is going to happen. The bishop, as I said also in the middle of this analysis, the bishop was always a little bit loose on the board. It was not clear where this bishop should go. Again, the bishop is endangered. The bishop, for instance, has to step back here to g7. Now we play rook to d6. We're trying to support the further progress of the pawn. We're trying to play rook to d1. Now you can play maybe something like knight to c7, including the knight into the game, but would simply take. The problem is now you cannot take with the king, of course, because you get some wild ideas. Queen to e5, you get even checkmate. Look at this, rook to b3, rook to h3 is going to happen. So this is not working in this particular position. For instance, you have to take out with the rook, but now we simply push the pawn further and promote to a new queen. So that's, as I said, here after move knight to e6, there's no time for playing rook to g8 to escape from this attack of the knight. So that's why Josef tried knight to c7. We have knight takes f8, rook takes f8, and now again this motif, rook to d6, trying to include this other rook into the game and play the promotion on the d file. So we have here now bishop to e7. We have now d8, the promotion immediately. That was, I think, the third stockfish move here by Garry Kasparov. Queen to d8. What should you do here? Let's see now possible continuations in the game. Here Josef Pribyl took with the bishop, but let's see now what happens if you take with the rook. This is still winning for white because look at this, rook takes d8, bishop to d8, and now the rook comes into the game. Again, the bishop is hanging, and you have to go somewhere. You have to play something like bishop to f6, but now with queen to f7, the game is over. There's not a good move anymore. If you play bishop to g7, you have to play rook to d8. If you play something like bishop to g5, queen to f8 leads into a checkmate immediately. There is also the tension on the 7th rank, so nothing can be really done here from black's perspective. So this is a completely lost game. So that's why after move d8 promotion, you have to take now with the bishop, but Garry Kasparov plays queen to c3, delivers an annoying check. You cannot cover because the rook is also supporting the f6 square. So that's why you have to play king to g8, and now Garry plays a beautiful move, rook to d7. This move is very important to play because it paralyzes the potential knight's activity, because the only way I think for black to defend its position is of course somehow to include the knight into the defense, but it's not working because Garry played this beautiful move, this beautiful paralyzing move. Now we have bishop to f6, we have a check by Garry Kasparov. Again, king to h8 has to be played, queen to f4 attacking the bishop, and now we have here queen to a6. Here Josef Pribyl tried to make something out of this, but even if you try, of course, bishop to g7, you lose simply this one, and still it's a completely winning game here for white. So Josef Pribyl tried here this move, queen to a6. I'm not sure what was the idea about this move, but as I said, this was a completely lost game anyway, and after move queen to h6 in this position, Josef Pribyl resigned, so Garry Kasparov won the game. So a really great game. I'm not sure what to say. I'm pointing out again, this was Garry Kasparov when he was 16 years old. Really mortal stuff. Although we have to say Josef Pribyl was an international master, but still he was many times the champion of Czechoslovakia. He was a really incredible player also, but how Garry Kasparov played the game in 98, it was really incredible. And you know that later in 1985 he became world's youngest world champion in chess history. So great game. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you want to see more Garry Kasparov's game, and if you want to see his whole career from the beginnings and also how he became the world champion in chess, check out our Garry Kasparov series. Here's the link, and if you like this content, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. See you soon with some more videos, and what to say, chess is the best, of course.